Hey guys, welcome back to the Loft Project. As always, I'm your host, James Roberson.
Electrify my body and you're making me feel like I'm so electric. Everything you do is making me blow, blow, blow. Don't know what to do.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Loft Project. As always, I'm your host, James Robertson. We're back for yet another episode. As I always say, if you like the content, why not press the subscribe button and never miss another episode. Right, back to tonight's show. I've got a very special guest on the show. She's been on many times. She's a friend of the show. So without further ado, let's get her on. Please welcome to the Loft Project, Miss Kat Watkins. How you doing?
Hello, how you doing, James? You all right?
I'm brilliant. I've survived the Scottish storm. Just.
Your electric's back on, that's the main thing.
The electric's back on. But anyone watching what I posted last night? Oh, it's just
Delete
weather.
it.
It's just
Delete
weather.
it.
It's just weather. But like I said to you off camera, Kat, they definitely just turned my electric off just to prove a point. That's what it was.
I think so.
Nothing-
They're capable of it. They're
Nothing-
capable of it.
Just to make it look like it was really bad. How's the weather in Wales?
Not bad at all. Not where I am anyway, although they did threaten the severe storms this end as well. But I did nip out earlier, just up through the valley for a drive, and it's a little bit windy, but nothing more than that. You watch now, I'll wake up tomorrow and someone's trampoline will be in my back garden.
It's always a trampoline, isn't it?
It's always a trampoline.
It's always a trampoline.
So no, it's not too bad at all here, James. It's actually
good.
all right. It's okay.
Good. Well, thanks for agreeing to come back on. Obviously, you've been on, I think this is the fourth time. Like I've said previously, unfortunately, maybe because of content, I would have said content, but maybe you are marked because you speak out against people. But I'd most like to say it's about content, but all the other episodes, unfortunately, get removed from YouTube because obviously they don't want us talking about V's or anything, or any diseases or any viruses.
Yeah, we can't say that word, and I'm not even going to say it now.
We've literally tried to we'll have a conversation, but we won't mention it. It's impossible.
It's impossible. It is, isn't it? Even like within 1 minute, I can't help but say it. It's really difficult to try and say another word.
It's like somebody tells you, wait, whatever you do, don't say that word. It's like,
I know, you've got to say it. I know, it's impossible. It is. So we won't say it on this one, and hopefully this will stay up. We'll see.
Yeah. I'll be happy if it does. I wanted to talk because obviously, I know you as one of the most for me, you are like the most researched person on multiple topics. So I always come to you because I just love the knowledge that you have and the way that you narrate it. It just comes across really well. So I love to have you on, Kat. And again, I appreciate you coming on and talking about this because it's something that's just been that I'm interested in, and it's actually been really annoying me within this. There's so much within this truth. Again, I don't like labels. We always say it. This movement or whatever it is. It's as toxic as it's so toxic sometimes, and there's so many things that divide us within this so-called truth movement. And one of the things that really starts to not all the time, but just some people use buzzwords that really annoy me is the new age. I mean, people say it's a cult, but again, I don't want to just. People could say flat Earth's a cult, you know what I mean? But it's just like, tell me what you know. What is the new age? And tell me what you know about it.
Well, this was a one for me, James, because I was actually involved in it myself for a long time. Do you know what I mean? For about, I'd say a decade, really. It was only maybe 2 years ago, less than 2 years, 18 months perhaps, where I started to find my faith and to step away from the new age, which is, it's not nothing new about it. It's very, very old, but it's called the new age because this is where it's where everybody's promoting this new ideology that, we've seen the buzzwords, we know what it is, this Christ consciousness, what people will call it, and raising your vibration and the law of attraction and manifestation and creating one's own reality, and all of these sorts of things are part of that, crystal worship. They're all part of this same thingy that I was involved with, like I say, for a long time. I did manifest, I'm going to say, because that's what I felt that I was doing at the time. Money and cars and all sorts of things, and there's many gurus within this movement who've done the same, by using different techniques. Now these techniques, so I've come to realize, are actually adopted from the occult, which most of the entertainment industry uses, in particular the music industry. And the reason I even fell upon this in the first place, by the way, right, was because obviously I do a lot of research with sexual abuse in children, with the sex education and everything that was going on. My job was to go into the whole sexual revolution, the whole sexual liberation movement, and find out, because this is sex education was coming from. So it was like a process of going through things and researching and scratching away and trying to find, where this started, which has been a long, long, long time. But, I sort of gone back 100 odd years or whatever. And this is where I came across sex magic, right? So, and then I fell into Aleister Crowley, right? So I did a very, very deep dive into Aleister Crowley and who he was and what he was part of and what he was promoting. And it kind of shocked me a little bit because I was only kind of looking at the sex part of it, but then all of this other stuff started coming up, this magic and this manifestation and, all of the same things that I was doing, so I was like, oh, what on earth is going on here, type of thing. And you know what it does? It takes you right back, doesn't it? And I wanted to know so much that I looked, some people stop where they feel things resonate with them, and when things are going great in their own little bubble and they kind of don't want to move on from that, but I did. So I went back to the depths of it, and what I found was that the new age is actually, I know this episode is going to annoy a lot of people. It really is going to slice down the middle, right? But I'm fully prepared for that anyway, been persecuted for a long time on that. So I'm fully prepared, there'll be people who have the same views and experiences, and then there'll be those people who will absolutely argue tooth and nail because they're in it.
I must say, when I've seen you post stuff about this, there's quite a few people who I've seen on your post who agree with you. So,
it might, we probably get a 50-50 response. It really does depend on your viewers, really. Do you know what I mean? And where they are and whatever, because a lot of people are falling down this greatest deception as far as I'm concerned. So when I went back from Aleister Crowley, I went back to a woman she was the founder of the Theosophy. Thankfully I said that right.
Wow.
Society, right? And her name was Helena Blavatsky, right? And it went back to her. It goes before them, but we could keep going back. I've gone back to her, which was in the late 80s. It was 1890 something she died, right? So it was before then. And then the mother of the new age was Alice Bailey. Now, this really shocked me. I was making all these connections and I was like, oh, wow. And this is why I don't shut up about it. So Alice Bailey, they consider the sort of the newest mother of the new age movement. Now, what was happening, she's written loads of books. This was back in the early 1900s. She wrote lots of books, but those books, she was actually channeling what she thought was, you would have heard this term as well, an ascended master.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So lots of people think they're ascended master and, in the spiritual realm, but what they actually are, and I'm just going to straight out and say it, they're demons. There's no such thing as an ascended master. So she was basically channeling this information, writing it down in books, right? Now, this was based on Luciferianism, right? So but they were basically saying, and you would have heard this as well, Lucifer means light bearer, therefore, and it's quite really inverted. It kind of makes Lucifer, the saint, in the Bible story, you know, and that he was the one who gave us knowledge. He was the one who, you know, told Eve to eat the apple, because apparently God was trying to keep all this knowledge from us, and he was the one who gave us this knowledge, right? So they really turn it on their heads, the Luciferians. And basically that's what she was saying. But bearing in mind, she's been channeled by demons, so they are going to, she didn't know that. She thought they were ascended masters, so she's just writing down what is coming through when she's doing her meditations and things, obviously. So this is where you'll see that, you know, the light bearer and the, you know, the knowledge and everything else comes from Lucifer. Now, at the time, she set up her and her husband set up what they called the Lucifer Press, right? So this is like really satanic, but they've twisted it on his head. The Lucifer Press, which is now called, and is still there, the Lucis Trust, right? So there was obviously a bit of a thingy with the name, and they were like, oh, we'll change the name to the Lucis. This is where she published all her books through. So Alice Bailey was obviously, she was being told these things by these demons, the things like manifestation, creating your own reality. You need to do all these things to ascend. You know, you hear people saying, you know, you're on 5D, they're in 5D and 3D and all of this sorts of stuff, right?
I must admit, this is one of the things that annoys me when I have people say that to me. Oh, you're just functioning at this level. We're on this
3D. Kind of you're functioning at 3D.
I'm in a fifth dimensional ascension. I'm like, people can believe in whatever they want. It's just sometimes people take a little bit of knowledge, not like a whole rounded look at it, just a little cherry picked bit of it, and then just push
run
it on
with it type of thing. Yeah. And it, you know, it's very powerful because a lot of this stuff works. So at the time you feel quite powerful, you know, and I did as well. When I was manifesting those things, I was like, I'm in control. So it does give you that sort of, I mean, you get people at different levels. You get people who are in the new age, are the most nicest people in the world, but you also get the biggest egos you will ever see in your life, because they genuinely think they're more ascended than you, they're more, you know, empowered than you, that you're quite unintelligent. Not to see what I mean? It's quite toxic.
Yeah,
really.
It pisses me off when I'm told what language I can use. That's, you know, getting wrong for just saying good morning. Or it's for me, a lot of words, again, another important, but like for me, it's about intent. Really, it's more than.
There's a lot of stuff with the words, and you know, again, that's kind of like a magic thing as well. And you know, it's actually forbidden for a reason. Do you know what I mean? Because you'll say people were like, well, I'm into white magic, but it doesn't really matter what magic you're in. It's actually very, very dangerous to open up that. Because the thing is, James, right, like it or not, and this is where I've come to realize, we're looking at this now, you know, in this on earth, and we can see all the evil and everything going on in this foul, right? And you know, many of us are speaking out about it and we're talking about it. But there's another battle going on, right, which is a spiritual battle. And that battle is very, very, very real.
Yeah.
That's what I came to realize, was how real that battle was. And people don't know what they're messing with when they're delving into the spiritual realm. And this is why in the Bible, it tells you, it forbids it. Don't tap into necromancy, you know, don't contact the dead, because again, this is something which might upset people. And this is something that's I'm going to get shouted out for on this, probably by some of you viewers, right? But when people think they're contacting loved ones, and there's comfort in it, right? So it's a really difficult one. And I battled with this, James. I'll tell you a story about why I battled with this. A couple of months before my dad passed away, a guy who lives around in my area, who he knows me, you know, and he'd been reading the Bible and whatever, and he messaged me and he inboxed me and he said, Kat, I'm sending you this. I'm telling you this because I know you can take it on the chin. I know you're not just going to go, oh, that's a load of nonsense. I know you will actually look at it and explore it, right? And he told me that. He said, look, you know, when because I was obviously saying things like, oh, you know, spirit guides and all of this sort of thing, and, you know, contacting your family and whatever when they died and stuff. And he said, no, I'd never been up to that point. I'd never ever seen a psychic in my life, ever gone to a medium. And I don't know why. Something was holding me back. Now I know what it is. But at the time, I just, you know, my friends would go and whatever. And I'd be like, wow, I can't believe they knew that. But I wouldn't go. So anyway, he told me about this, that it's not really your loved ones, because demons, they're very, very clever. People think they can smudge them with sage and negative energy with sage, right? They will laugh at you. Demons are so clever. They know every single thing about you. So when you're sat there with a medium, and this medium might say something very, that only you would know, like, it makes it real, doesn't it?
Yeah,
You're
of
like,
course.
that's definitely my father, because nobody else would have known that.
Yeah.
So he told me that, and I kind of took it on board what he was saying. I was like, okay, I understand what you're saying. Things were kind of dropping into place for me anyway. And then 2 months later, my dad died. Now I completely lost the plot from that point of view, because I knew deep down, and people were trying to, reassure me, oh, he's looking, he's watching, he's doing this and whatever. But I knew that he wasn't really. Do you know what I mean? But I was also grieving, and that was even making it worse. And then in the end, I don't know why I did this. Maybe I needed to do it for myself. I went to see a medium. So even though I knew what he had said to me was true, I still had to go. And I'd never been before, but I was grieving so much. I thought, I just need to go. So I went to see this medium anyway. And there were things that she was bang on about. But obviously I had this back in the back of my head, with like, well, this guy had said to me, these demons know everything there is to know about you and more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then there was some things that she got completely wrong and whatever. And I left that. And, that really upsets me. But it's true. It is true. We're messing with things we don't realize. So people are going, that's why it's forbidden in the Bible, because it's Satan's trick. Right now, when you would have heard things like, even if you haven't read the Bible, and I heard this before I was born again and everything, right? About Satan being an angel of light, and he can disguised. He can disguise himself as an angel of light, right? We hear that a lot, don't we? And when you think about it, if Satan came and he had his big red horns and his fork and his teeth was out, and we would not go there. We would never, ever, ever go there. But when it comes through things like meditation, and when it comes through things like yoga is another one, and Reiki and energy and healing in the spiritual world, it seems soft and it seems peaceful and whatever it seems, but in actuality, that's his doorway. So when people say, I did a post yesterday about meditation. Again, this is another one people will argue with me about, but it's scientifically shown not to be beneficial. It seems like it at the time, but it can cause psychosis, depression, manic depression, anxiety, because what you're doing, what it tells you to do is clear your mind. So if you're clear, it does clear your mind, but then you've left Satan open access for demonic activity. And that is how you end up with you opening doorways all the time, and people don't realize it. And the new age. So when I going back to Alice Bailey now, the one who wrote the book, she also wrote, and I implore anyone to go and research this. It's all documented. It's all completely documented, because the UN adopted it. And this is where it gets interesting, right? So she's got all these practices coming through about, what we should be doing and whatever else. And she wrote the 10-point plan through being channeled. The 10-point plan, number one, was take God out. So this was back in the 1910s. Number one was to take God out of society and the education system. 2 was to break parents from the children, because Judeo-Christianity was really bad, and they wanted to separate their children. Yeah. All of the things that's going on now make, homosexuality and everything else a perfect lifestyle and whatever. All of those 10 points that were done over 100 years ago, anyone can look at that and go, actually, this is exactly what's happened. So the important bit of that is the United Nations adopted Alice Bailey's 10-point plan for the education system and for the world. So, when you're seeing like the peace treaties and, all of that, and we know they're not, we know they're evil. Do you know what I mean? But this is all part of that false light. So seemingly on the outside, we want to bring peace and prosperity to everybody, but we know that's nonsense. But that's the false angel, that's the false light.
So it seems everything in this world is inverted, right?
It is that's exactly what it is. Everything is inverted, because Satan can't create anything new, but he can do counterfeits of everything. So that's why it's so easily sucked. I personally, out of all of the stuff I've researched, this is the greatest deception of all, because it comes cloaked in that peace and light and whatever, and people really do believe in it, in a big way.
Of course, but, I can almost hear people shouting down the screen right now, saying meditation, Reiki, these yoga, these are like tranquil, beautiful, harmonic things. How could you link that with something with something negative?
Yeah, yeah. And this is where we go into, so actually, and I've watched, you know what I'm like, James, once I get my something on, I'm just constantly watching it, right?
Yeah.
So I've seen so many testimonies of New Age to Jesus, but a lot of yogi teachers and things like that, and they will explain exactly why. I mean, I couldn't sit here and explain why I know that it's part of Hinduism and it's all part of this, there are so like billions of gods in Hinduism. In Buddhism, there isn't any gods, and they believe in reincarnation and karma and things like that. So this was the kind of step, and we're going to go step now into this creating the reality, right? So this is where it twisted for me.
Yeah.
So I was, like I say, I was creating my own reality. I was like, I really did believe that. And this is why I know how powerful it is, right? Because the people who were involved in it absolutely believe it now. Some of them are living in mansions because they created it, right? But where is that coming from? And this is what it got. This is what I can remember writing message. I was messaging someone. I can't remember who it was. This was a long time ago, mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so, and I was so into this. And I don't know how many books I read. And how many, honestly, I had about 30. I had to get rid of them all in the end. I got them all out of the house, all the self-help books, Eckhart Tolle, Wayne Dyer, all of these people. Do you know what I mean? I read so much and practiced these things as well. But it was a guy it was. Now, I don't know if he was being thingy or throwing me on the spot. And I was saying to him, you can have anything you want, right? If you can visualize it, visualization is another part of this as well. If you can visualize it, you can have it anything you want. And he goes to me, what if I wanted you? And you know what? It threw me. I don't think he was being creepy. I think he was trying to I think he was questioning what I was saying. And I was like, I went, well, I said, well, it wouldn't work, would it? Because and he was like, but you said I could have anything I wanted. And I was like, that was the first one that threw me, right? That was the first one. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe it's a battle of the wills because my will is stronger because I know it. And I think he said something like, but what about somebody who's married, right? Say there's a woman who's married over there and she doesn't know what you know. And I want her. If I want it, does that make it a good thing? And I was like, he caught me out, right? He really did catch me out. Now, at this time, I was like right in the middle of it all.
Yeah.
So then when I went down the kids stuff, right, and I know for a fact how real child sex abuse is and how prevalent it is, and ritualistic abuse as well, which many people are aware of, right? Now, I was thinking then, I was like, creating your own reality. Okay. How does a baby attract like for like? How does the law of attraction work in a baby situation where they get raped and tortured? They can't even think in that capacity for a start.
Yep.
So how on earth do they create? Is there an age limit on there? Do you like get to 12 and then they go, right, now it kicks in is when you're creating your own reality? Because I used to say things like, it doesn't matter what whether you realize it or not, you're bringing it to yourself because it tells you to sort of stay away from the negative and focus on the positive for that reason, right? Otherwise you're going to attract all this crap to you, which is actually really selfish when you think about it, because that then puts you in a bubble. What if somebody came up to you and said, was really desperate and they were depressed, but you were like, oh, I can't have you, because you're so negative and I'm attracting it's quite selfish in that thing. Anyway, the whole baby child thing, really, even a rapist, even an adult, how does and who's doing the manifesting then? Because in a relationship, it's not a relationship, in a situation where you've got, say, a 30-year-old man and a 4-year-old little girl or whatever, right? And he's hurting that child isn't creating that reality. I don't care what you're saying. So in that situation, that means the man is creating it. So does manifesting and creating your own reality, is that good to be doing it on your own will? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's too many evil people about.
Yeah, and I've had this is one of the fundamental things that I've argued with people over. So let me get this clarified with you. We're not saying that manifestation is not a real thing because we're not saying that, right? Because it is, right?
Yeah.
But I've had this argument with other people where they're telling me that we are all manifesting our own reality, and that's been my very first question. Are you telling me that children manifest their own abuse? And I don't know. I've had various answers.
What do you find most people say to that?
I've had, to be fair, quite worryingly, I've had a couple of people say, yes, we're here to learn. This is a lesson. We're here to learn. Say that. We're here to learn a lesson. And, I've heard that maybe this is punishment for a past life. Or
That's exactly what
that's horrendous. That's horrendous,
isn't it? Isn't it horrendous?
What kind of
right?
yeah? Go on. No, sorry, go, Kat.
No, go on, Liv. What was you going to say?
No, that's what kind of God are we? What kind of creator? What kind of entity would? I don't know. That just seems so awful.
Well, that's what Buddhists believe, right? So, because they believe in reincarnation and karma, they believe. So, basically, what they're saying, like the answers you would have seen, are quite, like that. I've seen exactly the same thing, right? So, what they're saying is we come here as many times as we need to come here until we learn all these lessons, right? But how does the Buddhist concept then get rid of evil? Doesn't it just perpetuate it? Because, for example, right, if somebody's raped now if I was raped now, right? I'm having my karma for my previous life, right? So in the previous life, then I was the rapist. That's what they're trying to say, right? So if I was the rapist in the previous life and now I'm having my karma, then somebody else has to commit that offense on me, right? To be able for me to have my karma, I need a rapist. So are we not just perpetuating evil then by doing that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because nothing is cutting it off, is it? There always has to be a victim, and there always has to be a perpetrator.
Yes.
Always, right? So where did it start? Do you know what I mean? Like, where did it start? And I'm like, hang on a minute. So you're saying if you knew a 3-year-old down the road, right, was being raped, you'd be like, oh, well, just desserts, isn't it? Because he was obviously a rapist and it's just bullshit. It's just bullshit. And it doesn't work. Karma's not real in that. And I used to say that karma comes to everyone. Does it? Because the most evil people on this earth, right, live into their 90s and 100s. Do you know what I mean? They live this life of luxury and whatever. And then there's no karma there. And people say, yeah, but they'll come back and be that's nonsense.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, Kat, because I have obviously in various times in my life truly believed that karma was like what's the saying is, was it three things that are certain in life? Was it death, karma, and taxes? I don't know.
Yeah, taxes. Yeah.
But certainly,
karma. I thought it was as well. It's not.
It's all about people. Well, you put whatever energy you put out.
Whatever you're focusing it on is what comes back to you, which is essentially the law of attraction, isn't it? In that part of it. But that, the whole Alice Bailey with the 10-point plan. So some guy watched a video, right? It was really good. He'd actually taken his phone into like the one in London, right? To the UN offices in London. So you can see him. It's only like an 8-minute video or something like that. So he goes in and he shows you, as he's walking up this all obviously the Masonic floor, right? The Masonic floor's in there. So he goes up the stairs and you've got the United Nations and he's showing you on the plaque, obviously that way. And then you've got the Lucis Trust. So that Lucis Trust this way. So he goes into and the Lucis Trust is a library. So he goes into and he's pulling all the books off the shelves. And what do you think's on there? Meditation, yoga, Reiki, all of these things, right? Now, these are the very same practices, by the way, that secret societies use, including Freemasonry. They're always like you've got the pyramid and then you've got the enlightened one on the top and the eye and everything else. And people will try and turn that and say it means something else. It doesn't. So when people will argue this point as well, and I was one of those people who would argue that point as well, when others were trying to open my eyes when I was in it, is occult just means hidden. Yeah, it does mean hidden, but does that necessarily mean that we need it is good because it's hidden? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't automatically mean that it's good because it's hidden.
Yeah.
Because actually, when you study the occult, and that's exactly what I've been doing for this amount of, for this couple of years, it really gets into the realms of the secret societies and what they're doing and what, do you know what I mean? And the practices that they're practicing. And I'm like, you don't realize that you're actually, so you've got like the truthers, the truth seekers, are exposing Freemasonry and things like that while practicing the same practices that these people practice.
Yes, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Again,
like, because
inverted.
It's very inverted. It's very, very, and it's so clever.
It's so
clever.
That's what I've always said. That these things are so evil, but they're so geniusly evilly designed. Because, like you say, if it was like what that reference you went back to the devil, if it was just the your standard devil with the big horns and the obvious monster.
We'd be like, whoa,
whoa.
Yeah, we're not going there.
Yeah, of course he's not going to come dressed like that, isn't he? He's going to be...
Yeah, he's going to come as an angel of light. And that is exactly what he's managed to do. And, we got to look. So again, when we're talking, and I tell you what, I watched one on the me and Darren watched this together. I was like, you'll know anyway about the music industry, but you've got the obvious ones like your Sam Smiths and your Miley Cyrus and your Beyonce and your Jay-Z and things. They're obvious.
Oh, Lady Gaga, like
they're obviously
Katy Perry. It's so. What do you think? Sorry, just before you go into that point.
No, go on.
It's always been around. We're talking about these social elites, these secret societies, these occult. It's always been around, right? They're ancient, right? It goes so far back. But right now, I don't think. Have you ever seen a time where it's their imagery, their everything? It's just in our face. They don't hide it. They're not hiding it. It's everywhere.
And that's why we know it as the end days, because it says, it is prophesied that this would happen, and they've never hid it as such. It has always been it. And like when I'm watching things now back from like the 60s and 70s, some of the music back then, I'm like, oh wow. But you wouldn't have thought it. Like I say, the obvious ones are obvious. You can see them. They even tell you they sell their souls as well. So when I said manifestation is real and you can have what you want, well, these people have sold their souls for fame and fortune, because some of them can't sing for toffee, mind. But if they set Billy Joel, if you watch an interview with Billy Joel, he says exactly the same. He doesn't say he sold it. He says, I made a contract with, you know what I mean? So some of them quite openly say it, and people just think, oh, it's part of their act and whatever. And they'll tell you, like, they've sold their souls. And, we can see some of them trying to come out of it, which they're not able to, and they get killed. A lot of us know about what's going on in the music entertainment industry as a whole. But there was ones, right? And me and Darren was like, oh, wow, it went on for, it was like a 3-hour documentary on the music industry, right? And about how satanic it is, right? So obviously you can go back to the Beatles, because the Beatles, they look like clean cut lads and they're from Liverpool and blah, blah, blah. But they were the first ever band to have the backwards messages on their thingies, on their records and stuff, which were really satanic. But that's how they got them. That's how they grabbed the youth.
I can remember seeing one of their album covers where it was like all these babies cut up into pieces.
I know.
Now we'd look at that like these days and go, what the
why didn't anyone say? Well, they might have, but not many. If they did. Do you know what I mean? They were quite, and when you have, a lot of likes of Ozzy Osbourne, he even sings a song, Mr. Crowley. He's singing, when you've got, Darren used to say, was he on about Jimmy? I think he was on about Jimmy Page. Yeah, he was on about Jimmy Page, right? And he said, he can play that guitar with that violin bow better than I can play it with my hand. But what he's actually doing, right, when he's got this guitar bow and he's going dum dum, and he's going like that in the corners of the room, dum dum dum. And what he's doing, that's a ritual. That's actually a ritual, and we don't even know. And you've got all of those people there, and they're all like, yay. And they're actually part of that, and that's how they pull you in. It's clever.
You look at like, I mean, like you said before, I believe, we've all seen every single musician, musician, everyone in Hollywood. They all do the hand gestures. It's not by coincidence. They all do it. I truly believe that to be rich and famous, they do sign a contract. They do sell their soul. There's any amount of like amazing singers who don't make it, like who are much better singers, who wouldn't
dream of going down there because they know they're going to be involved.
Yeah. Just look at the dramatic. You mentioned him. Look at the dramatic change in that Sam Smith when he first. Okay, I do believe that he already signed his soul just to get the contract in the first place. But when you see his imagery, thin, clean cut, singing beautiful love,
like a gentleman, didn't he?
Lovely, dressed really nice, singing like love ballads, and just look where we are now, right? It's just satanic in every the symbolism, the costumes, the sexualization of children. There's children at his shows, and he's just grotesquely overweight and just wearing awful
ridiculous
stuff,
grinding like really foul stuff, isn't it?
Doing like sexual acts on the stage in front of children. Evil, man.
Yeah,
evil.
And I think it's again the beginning part of it when they're all sort of clean cut and like you say, I think that part of it is to pull in the youngsters, and then they can change them. So once they've got that fan base, they can turn on a penny then, and that fan base will still be there. They'll just be influenced with the new stuff. And that is that's what I mean. It's so clever. Do you know what I mean? We know this is the same within Hollywood and more. Even Jay-Z. So you would have seen the quotes as well. This is what happens when you haven't got a moral compass. So this is why, right, whether you're a Christian or not is irrelevant, right? If we all lived by the 10 commandments, there would be no pedophiles. There would be no murderers or rapists or whatever. When you take the moral compass away and let everyone live by their own rules, but introduce all this horrible, this is what's happened. So where Aleister Crowley had come up with, he wrote the book, actually, Do What Thou Wilt Shall Be the Whole of the Law. You would have heard that. Do what thou wilt instead of do what God wills will be the whole of the law. And the likes of Jay-Z will sit and wear T-shirts with do what thou wilt on. It's all the occult. The occult is twisted. It's in everything. It's not
as if he just accidentally wore that T-shirt, right?
No. It's totally purposeful. Do you know what I mean? It's to get out to the masses. And Beyonce was another one. They do their initiations and things like that as well, where we can see the turn in them. That particular song will be their initiation.
I think in particular those two are like, they're just evil. I just look at them, they're evil entities. They're
higher up the chain than what's the one that's been in the news? Diddy, P. Diddy, right? So obviously we know what's going on. There's a lot of stuff coming out about him, but I still think that he's the fall guy. I still, you've got people who are much, much higher than him, who are doing the same thing. Jay-Z and Beyonce are quite high up in that.
Well, isn't there, obviously, he's now facing a court case himself.
Numerous, yeah.
What's it? He's been accused of raping a 13-year-old girl, isn't it? Is that,
yeah, and that was with Jay-Z.
Allegedly, yes.
Yeah. So he's, he's bringing sort of people down with him. Do you know what I mean? He's pulling, I think people are starting to become a bit more aware of what's going on, which is why I can get right for people who are not conspiracy theorists, right? We'll split it down the middle for a minute with a new age, right?
Yeah.
So for the people who are not conspiracy theorists, I can totally see, right, why they'll be in that new age thingy, right? 1,000,000%, right? But if you're a conspiracy theory and you've looked into the music industry and you've looked into secret societies and whatever, what I cannot get my head around at this point is, like I said earlier, how they can't see that occult connection with what they're doing themselves. And we've got people, openly promoting all of these things that are, that are Eastern mysticism and things like that. They're promoting them all in the mainstream. So I'm like, okay, guys, but you're trying to expose the mainstream for being evil while doing the things that they're doing. Satanism isn't just about drinking blood and sort of cutting off animals. So for example, and I couldn't get my head around this, and now I know what it is. So we got the sex ed in school.
Yeah,
there was other bits to go in with that, right? So for example, in Wales, and this will be the same, roughly the same for each country. In Wales, our 4 core subjects used to be English, Welsh, maths and science.
Yes.
That's fair enough, right? I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But maths and science have now become, they're no longer mandatory. So they still do them, but they're not mandatory. But RSE, relationships and sex education, and RVE.
Maths is not mandatory.
They do it, obviously they do it, but it's not a mandatory subject anymore in Wales.
Right.
The 2 that replaced science and maths are relationships and sexuality education, and the other one, and I couldn't think. I knew there was going to be a sort of sinister thingy to it, but was religion, values, and ethics, right? So what they've done, and they did this, it came out a couple of years ago about Satanism being in the schools. Now, as soon as you hear that, most people will think, absolutely, because they'll think of the real dark side of it. They'll be like, there's no way that Satanism is coming into schools. Yes, it is in the schools, and it comes in under the form of meditation. It comes in the form of hypnotism. It comes in all of this well-being and, all of this peace and unity and yoga and whatever. That's part of it. So theosophy, the occult, the new age is all Satanism dressed up. And I know people are going to shout at me for that, right? But I'm just saying what, I've totally gone down this thingy, and I can see, like I say, I was in it myself. Yeah. So for example, while they were doing it, this is really freaky, right? Now, hypnotism is again, that's part of that world, which we shouldn't be tapping into that, right? Because it's part of the other side. So what they did with it, it was really freaky. I'm so glad one of the mums in the school is so on board. She's so on the button. As soon as she sees something, right, she is bringing it up.
Yeah.
So she gets to see the resources now. We fought for her to get to see the resources before it goes into the classroom, right? She's already protected the classroom without even, she's done such a good job. She doesn't give herself enough credit. But she was doing it for her own boy, but actually it turns out she's ended up safeguarding a whole school of kids, and no one's none the wiser. The first one she did, right, she'd gone in, she was like, hang on a minute, they were doing ABC, they were only 5, ABC, doing the alphabet, right? A is for apple, B is for ball, C is for chocolate, whatever. S is for secrets, right? And she was like, why would you not say S is for sand or S is for sandcastle? Why secret? So she brought that up and said, that's quite, and they agreed with her. The teachers were like, yeah, actually we can, and they didn't teach that lesson, which was great because she had safeguarded them. This is obviously coming down this same thing. So the other one that went on, I was like, she had sent me it and she was like, what do you think of that? And I said, whoa. So what they were doing, right, they had this in the classroom. So this is during gender ideology time, right? So these are little kids, right? You've got gender ideology. And what they were doing, they said this resource, this lesson, we're going to be doing a chime. And every time that chime makes a noise, all the children have to stay still and stay calm and focus on like the gender stuff. And I was like, oh, that's like a form of hypnosis. You know, you can stop people's addictions and change people's lives on hypnosis, mind. So bearing in mind what the content is, and then you're doing this chime throughout the day at like random times. So the kids could be running around playing in the sandcastle and then boom, and they have to stop and focus on this stuff. And it's like, whoa, that is massively indoctrinating. And you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's what they mean by Satanism coming in the classroom. They don't mean it in an obvious way, because we would be like, even me, when I first heard of it, I was thinking, well, it can't be that blatant. You know, we know what's going on or whatever. I was thinking, they can't be that blatant, surely. But then that was before I understood about what the New Age was and what these practices actually were doing, you know? Now I do. I was like, whoa. So she went in again. She spoke to the teachers and she was like, you know, and she explained it, and they actually did agree with her again and were like, yeah, do you know what? We're not going to teach that. So it's really good that they've got that mum in the school, you know, because like I say, you know, she's safeguarding without, you know, realizing it. She's safeguarding a whole year group there, because they, you know, going to speak to the teachers and making them see what she's saying has stopped it. But that's what they mean. So they're creeping it in, you know, they do it now, mass meditation in classrooms and stuff. So they're clearing those children's minds out. That is so dangerous. Now, when you're meditating on the word of God, you're filling yourself up spiritually. You're not clearing your mind. When you clear the mind, you allow legal access. And that's the type of things that can happen. And I tell you the worst type of things. And obviously this kind of, again, this flipped me into my faith straight away. And I was like, wow. And I've done statuses on this, and you wouldn't believe the amount of people who was like, this has happened to. Sexual demons are the strongest. Right? They're the most powerful. And this is why when they're doing their rituals, this is why they have all these orgies, and this is why they do sex with children, because they're the innocent ones, sex with animals, because that is the most powerful one, right?
Yeah.
So this is why we live in a very hypersexualized world as well, mind, because obviously they, you know, these demons, you know, there's this thing with Bonnie Blue, right? I don't think for 1 minute she slept with all them people in 12 hours. It's a load of crap, but it's normalizing this sexual promiscuous behavior. See,
they're really pushing. I've noticed they're really.
Have you seen it?
They're
everywhere?
Really pushing that. You're really pushing that, and I'm trying.
She's everywhere.
I'm looking at her thinking, obviously I'm a father of a young daughter myself, a young woman myself. I'm thinking, where's her guidance? Where's the people in her life? In fact, I do believe her mother's like her agent who pushes, who's helping her, enabling her to do all that stuff. Like,
it's crazy, isn't it? And that's why I don't believe, like I say, I don't believe it happened for 1 minute, but she is promoting something. And this is why she's on every screen. This is why she's on every reel. This is why she's on every mainstream thingy, because she's promoting it, that it's a normal lifestyle. See, so that, you know, like I say, we're living in a fallen world, so Satan runs the show here, and it's quite obvious he is, right?
It does feel like we're
it is
a dystopia right now. It really does.
It really, and it's going to get worse, unfortunately, right? Which is not a nice thing to say or, you know, but it is going to get worse. We can see it getting worse by the day, and things like this just help promote it. But like I say, sexual demons were the worst. Now, I was quite, I gotta be honest, I was quite promiscuous when I was younger. I got sucked into that sexual liberation movement, right? So I'm not speaking from a point of, oh, I'm just a prude sat here. I'm speaking, do you know what I mean? Like from my own experiences and whatever. Yeah. So I used to suffer. Now, this is really quite weird, but it seems not. It's quite common. But obviously, you know, when I put it out there, people were like, "Wow, this is what happened to me. This is what happened to me." So I used to suffer quite bad with sleep paralysis. Right now, sleep paralysis is demonic, right? And if you've had it, you'll know how terrifying it is, right? You can't move, can't breathe, can't open your eyes, whatever, right? And you just have to suffer that, don't you? Well, I used to feel a pressure on my chest, right? And I had that quite a lot, you know, while I was, you know, I had that. And then when I found ironically enough, right, this is really weird. And I'm like, wow, when I got into the new age stuff, I didn't have it, right? For years and years, I didn't have it. And it was when I was researching the Franklin cover-up, which is just up there on my bookshelf, which was basically about satanic ritual abuse to nursery children in a school in Nebraska, right? And this was like high flyer pedophile ring, like massive, right? And they tried to pretend it was the satanic panic back in the 80s, right? And it wasn't real, and all those kids were making it up and whatever. They weren't, right? So when I was reading that, and that was about nearly coming up 2 years ago, I think now, that's when I started to absolutely know definitely Satan was real. But not only that, I was like, if Satan's real, then is Jesus real? So it was like that curiosity then, right? Was started to peak in me, you know, and things were happening. And it was then where I led in bed one night, and then because I'm so familiar with it, even though I hadn't had it for a long time, I started to get the onsets of sleep paralysis, right? And I thought, oh no, because I knew what was going to happen, you know, I even though I hadn't had it a long time, I was familiar with it. And I was paralyzed at that point, couldn't do anything. So in my mind, I started to panic, as I always used to do before. And I felt that pressure on my chest again. Because I couldn't move, you can't get that pressure off, can you? It's just stuck there, right? Yeah. So I was stuck in that position, and I thought, what can I do? I couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't, you know, do anything. So in my mind, I shouted in my mind, Jesus, save me. And I said the Lord's Prayer. As I was saying the Lord's Prayer, I felt my body easing up, and it stopped it in its tracks like that. And I thought, that's the first time in all of those times I'd had it when I was younger and whatever, I'd suffer through it. I couldn't believe it. And then a couple of days later, the exact same thing happened to me again, but I was quicker this time. So I didn't do you know what I mean? Like, so I did it, the Lord's Prayer, and boom, it stopped. And I haven't had it since. And that was 2 years ago. Now I've looked at what I'm looking at. I realized because I was doing Satan's bidding when I was in the New Age movement, Satan only wants to keep you away from Jesus, from God, as much as possible, right? So we don't care what you're doing as long as you're not pointing towards there. And this is why when people become, and when they go step into their faith, that tends to be when they get their attacks, because that soul is being pulled away and into it. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what happened with me. So because I'd started to think, oh, Jesus might be real at this point. Do you know what I mean? And I knew there was a creator anyway from being a flat earther. I knew that. Do you know what I mean? I knew that point that we would definitely. You know, even when I was really young mind, I knew the monkey theory was not. I just remember when I was a kid thinking it thinking I didn't take it any further. But in my head, I was thinking, all I thought was, if we evolved from monkeys, why is there still monkeys and why are there humans? It was that simplistic in my mind, you know. And I never went. And I was probably about 13. I didn't ask anyone, didn't say anything. I just remember having a fleeting thought every now and again, and I sort of carried on with my life. But it was when I realized the Earth wasn't a spinning ball. We're not space monkeys flying through. That's when I realized that we had a creator, definitely. So I knew there was a creator, but I fell down the wrong thingy, because obviously the New Age makes you believe you are God, right? And that is the one, you know, that's where it gives everyone their so-called power.
That's the one I've always had a problem with. That is the one.
I used to say it. I used to say it.
Yeah,
we are gods.
We are God, creating our own reality.
Yeah, God just wants us to create. No, he doesn't at all. He created us. He didn't create us to create. Go and create heaven and earth. Go and create. We can't do that,
Yes.
right? We can't do that. But that's what and I used to say that. But when I started, and I tell you what I used to do as well, right? And I will hold my hands up to it. I used to cherry pick, and I know no, I've seen people doing it now, right? So I'm like, I used to do it as well. Cherry pick little bits of the Bible, right, that fit what you're going to say. So one of them will say, you'll see it all the time, you will become as gods, right? As if God said it. God didn't say that. Satan said it. It's a serpent in the. That was the first ever lie in Genesis, where before they bit the apple was, you will be as gods. You know, you seeing good and evil and whatever else. So it was. It wasn't God saying to us, ye will all be as gods. It was Satan telling Eve that. Do you know what I mean? So it's very twisted, and you know, you can pick little bits to suit you. When you read it in context, it's like, no, he wasn't actually saying that.
I think,
you know,
I think we all tend to do. I think we've all done that in the past.
I've done it. I've done it with a flat earth.
I've done it with flat earth. Yeah, I don't know anything about the Bible, but I've obviously took the firmament.
But actually, Darren went through it and picked out all of the verses in the Bible, and there's quite a lot of them, mind, which show you that it's not a spin. It doesn't say anywhere that it's
Nothing
a spin.
about that.
It is basically a flat, you know. So there are plenty of Christians out there, which, you know, it's quite strange. Which, in my opinion, if you're reading that Bible to the letter, you should be a flat earther, because it doesn't tell you in that Bible anywhere that it's a spin. It says it's immovable and stationary. It can be immovable and stationary and moving at the same time.
Yes.
Do you know? And people, Christians, that they'll say, the ones who don't like to believe that because it throws other stuff out, they'll say things like, oh, you know, he's speaking poetic. It's like, no, he's not. Right. You're either going to believe what he's not speaking poetically at all. God, he's given you this is exactly how it is. And, you know, on other things, they'll be firm on, except that bit. So it's like, right. So he was telling you literal stuff in the whole Bible, except that bit. He was being poetic at that bit. It's like, no, do you know what I mean? It's not that at all.
I certainly did that myself with the whole firmament. And a few other things. So
which is fair enough, because you're actually still keeping it in context of what you're saying. So you're saying the earth is not a spinning globe, and so is the Bible. But when people take it out of context with the New Age, they completely twist it up. It doesn't say anything. God didn't tell us that we were gods. What they will also use, and what I also use, by the way, for anyone, thinks I'm having a go, is God created us in his image. Yeah, in his image. He didn't create us to be gods. Otherwise, he would have said that you are gods. Do you know what I mean? And so this is the thing. It can be massively twisted, and people will twist it up as much as they can. Because the thing is, living in the New Age, living in that thingy, when you're in it, is actually really, you do feel powerful. You don't want to come out of it, right? Unless something throws you out of it. And like I say, you can go on YouTube or whatever, and you can find testimony after, especially from ex-witches and things. Do you know what I mean? Like, and they were like doing all the tarots and all the other things and everything, and those testimonies, I believe, are the strongest, because they're the were, I didn't bother with, I had angel cards and stuff like that. They've all gone now. I haven't got anything like that now. But these people actually used to use them properly. Do you know what I mean? Like the tarots and the angel cards and the boards or angel boards and whatever. I must
say, there's something instinctively that's made me stay away from all those things that you've mentioned. The whole tarot card reading, the hypnotism.
I've never had the tarots.
What was it called when you went to see that? What'd you say?
Medium, like a psychic or something. Yeah.
Just something in. Even if I thought that was real and they could predict the future or tell me stuff about or tell me about loved ones who that was just, like
me until my dad died, and then but I would, if I knew now what I knew when my dad died, I definitely wouldn't have gone to one. Do you know what I mean? It was only because I was grieving. I didn't quite understand the difference between, I hadn't come to faith. I wasn't, looking at the occult really. I was looking at things to do with it, but not the occult as such. So I wouldn't have gone. But I was like you. Do you know what I mean? Like, just never. I was never drawn to it. And in fact, when people used to say they were going, oh, do you want to come? I'd be like, oh, nah. It was not a big deal out of it. It's just like, no. Yeah. Something was holding me back. Yeah. And now I believe I know what it is, from that point.
Yeah. And you touched on demons before, and I truly believe they are real things, and I totally get your train of thought. Well, if that evil side of it is, there must be the good.
Who's the good side?
Who's the good side? Yeah. So I get you. I see why you've went on that journey. I've certainly, like you've said before, with my flat Earth journey, it's certainly, we've spoken about this before, where 100% flat Earth has brought me on my journey of like, because I was all about the science. I was all about the science about the science. You know, the whole Big Bang evolution. I always like you. I always looked at that picture. It's even more ridiculous when they give you an illustration of it, and it's like a fish crawling out of the water, and then the fish turns into a.
I know it's so.
The fish turns into a monkey or a squirrel monkey or something.
It's actually quite crazy when you think about it, isn't it?
It's so ridiculous. Even when they promote Darwinism, what was it? The origins of what was that book?
The Origins of Species.
Origins of Species. Even then, when he's talking about when he was on, I don't know, what was it, the Galapagos Islands he was on, and he was observing these birds with different beaks. Well, they were still birds. They were birds. They weren't like a dog going from a dog to an elephant. No,
do you know what I mean?
they were still birds. So, and again,
and he even said himself, Michael, he admitted it in the end, didn't he? But he even said himself that his theory should be proven in the next sort of 100 years after his death. But I tell you a really good book I read, and Darren picked this up in the charity shop. It's not big. Is it up there? Darwin's Theory Refuted by the Fossil Record. And basically this book has got loads of pictures and all in it as well. It's a really good book, actually. It's not like a major read, but it talks about the Piltdown Man being the hoax. And because they knew that was a hoax.
Yeah.
They knew, like 40 years later or whatever, they absolutely knew that was a hoax. Do you know what I mean? But the fossil record completely refutes Darwin's theory. Like a crab from so many years ago still looks like a crab now. Do you know what I mean? There is no intermediaries in between anything at all.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah.
Yeah, they've often said we would be tripping over all those intermediate, those and I know, like, we'll be tripping over them. There'll be millions of them, and all they
would have to be, wouldn't they, for evil? You aren't going to wake up one day and it's a completely different animal. You have to go through all those different. Do you know what I mean?
And what they'll show you is just in random museum is like a Neanderthal or some kind of caveman thing. It's so,
like that. See, like, oh, come on,
it's so ridiculous, and that's what the whole dinosaur.
And they teaching them that in school, you know, and that's why it's got such a stronghold. Is so powerful, because they get to, you know, as soon as you go into the classroom, into nursery, they'll have a globe spinning and whatever, you know. It's very...
when you're in your cradle, they've got dinosaur mobiles going and Earth and rockets going around.
Yeah, and it is fascinating, isn't it? So you kind of get, when you're a kid, like, get pulled into that. You can see why, especially children, get pulled into that side of things, and then it's very, very difficult then to pull them away from it. Do you know what I mean? And that's where we come up against all the, you know.
I often use the whole Santa Claus analogy, where we lie to our children. We come up with this whole backstory, and it's us as parents, it's society as general, the schools, it's everywhere, isn't it?
So everyone is in on it. You know, like, you know, they say, and they have to all be in on it. Well, they are in that lie. So what's the difference with this one, you know?
Yeah.
And they teach it, even now it's called Darwin's Theory of Evolution, you know, and they're teaching it as fact, and that's naughty. Yeah,
even with Big Bang, like I forgot his name. He was a Jesuit priest. He was from Belgium, and it's relatively kind of like new. It was only 1939 or something that he came out. How can any human being, especially in 1939? Sorry if anyone's watching and I've got that date wrong, but it's recent, right? It's recent. Yeah. How can any person go, I know what happened 14 billion years ago? Like, how? And then teach it. And I know they'll always go, but the cosmic background radiation. What?
They just keep adding stuff to it, though, don't they? And that's why you sort of. It gets so big that a lot of people are like, oh, only scientists can understand that. Do you know what I mean? So we don't get that little bit of it. But that's essentially what they've done there. And, you know, again, I believe it's the evolution theory is, again, to pull us away from our creator, our father. I really 100%. Do, because it does. If you believe in evolution and the Big Bang, you don't believe in God. Do you know what I mean?
If you believe that, and that's where I always explain to people why. That's the question people always ask: well, why would they want to lie about? Because when you believe that you're this insignificant speck of dust lost in an infinite fucking void of nothingness, that you were born of a cosmic fart and life has no meaning or purpose, you don't have to be accountable for your own actions when you're here. The only power is man and government, and
it's very important, actually, isn't it? As people to say, when people say it doesn't matter, well, it kind of does matter for a new number of reasons. It really does matter, and it does pull people away from the truth, essentially. And that's what I keep saying to people. Now I've realized it. I'm like, you dig through all these truths and all of these rabbit holes, and I say the ultimate is like, God is the big bang, not the big bang. Oh, I got that in my head now. The ultimate big boss of truth, right?
Yeah.
And you go through all these little things, and eventually people are going to get it, because that's where the truth's going to take you. The thing is with the New Age, right? And you'll hear see little trigger words to trigger me a little bit now, because I'm like, I don't like that word. I don't like it. Resonates, right? So when people say, it doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't resonate with me. Satanism doesn't resonate with me either, but it is a fact. Do you know what I mean? So what people will do, because the New Age and all of this sort of Eastern mysticism and whatever puts you in this bubble, and you feel empowered and whatever, you don't want to break that. So that is why people will say, well, this resonates with me, and they'll stop. But then in my opinion, I'm like, that's not really truth seeking. It's uncomfortable, but if you stop at that, that's you've gone so far with the truth, but then stop because something doesn't resonate with you, or you don't want to. Then that's not truth seeking. You've got to go where it takes you, the truth, literally. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I did, and that's what I've done, like a full circle of it, and I'm like, wow, okay, I totally get it. And I'm a bit obsessed with the New Age now, and I feel like, because I've been in it myself, I'm not just giving a I'm not having a go at people. I can relate to it, right? I can totally relate to it. But because I had somebody say to me yesterday, oh, you're just slagging everyone off who doesn't because I mentioned about meditation, this one was, you're just slagging everyone off who doesn't agree with you. I'm like, actually, I haven't slagged anyone off. Read what I've written, what I've done. Just like I would warn you that walking off that cliff over there is probably likely to kill you, and just as I warn you that the big V's are no good for you, right, and they're very dangerous for you, I'm doing the same thing now, because I know that it's dangerous to be in this. So I'm reading this book. And a lot of Christians, it's called the apostasy in the Bible. A lot of Christians fall away from faith in the end days, and they'll go towards the New Age. And there's a lot of churches out there who preach the New Age stuff, and it's like, whoa, that's how powerful it is. It's got into the house of the supposed house of God. Although you don't have to go to church to be there, obviously. That's just a place if you want to go. It doesn't matter as long as you're. So it's called the seduction of Christianity, spiritual discernment in the last days, and that's a lot to do with the New Age and how that's crept into. To Christianity. And then this one I'm reading online, I got this one online because you can get this as an audio book, but it was like a long audio book, and I prefer to read, even though I tend to prefer to read a book myself. I was like, I'm not paying 35 quid for it, so I'm gonna have to find it as a PDF, and I did. So I found it as a PDF online, and it's called The Hidden Truths of the Rainbow. And that is about the New Age as well, and the occult, specifically about the occult. And that's like, whoa, that's mind-blowing. I'm like a third of the way through that one as well. And I'm realizing, like I say, the connection with it is all Freemasonic, Jesuit order, all of this sort of stuff is the occult, but dressed up in a nice fluffy thingy for the masses. And it has pulled so many people in.
It's genius.
So many people.
It's genius. Like, when you look at it, it's genius.
It really is. It's sad because I'm like, I just want him to see the truth,
Because people do inherently want to do good. I believe that.
Yeah, of course they do. It's not even, it's nothing to do with that. They're looking for, but they get stuck. And there's a lot of people. I've had a few people from the New Age come to me sort of on inbox and say, actually one of them was a Kundalini teacher. See, even now, the Kundalini energy, the yoga energy, it's the serpent spirit. The serpent is like satanic. They know this. It's in the medical thingy as well.
I was going to say again. I'm ashamed to say I don't know what in all the medical kind of badges. What is this? The serpent and the staff? Like, is that
exactly?
Is that the garden? Is that the Garden of Eden? What's Is that
It's Satan. It's
Yeah.
the satanic symbol, you
It's
know,
in
and
everything.
you know, we know, unfortunately, we know what's going on in the medical industry, but it's not even just there. It's in other places as well. But that's the serpent energy. And if you've seen people having their Kundalini awakening, because I've watched loads of documentaries and stuff on there, really interesting. Honestly, it's like wow. And they have like, it's like being possessed by, they think they're having this awakening and they're like flapping and screaming and on the floor, you know, like when you see on a film when somebody's like sort of demon possessed, and they, you know, that's what's happening to them. Is absolutely insane. And a lot of these people that promote this stuff as well, they're not good people. So like there was a one I watched the other day actually, and this was what did he call himself? This was from back in the 80s and 90s. He was an American guy, and he was this guru, and he was managing to have sex. It was like, it was a cult, right? But it was, you know, but he had got thousands, and I mean thousands of people. Can't remember. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you, and you can put it on here, right? Because it was like, you know, quite an old one, really. And he got he managed to convince these women that, you know, they needed to and get higher and to, you know, go to this Christ conscious. They all needed to have sex with him, and they all did, right? And he was a proper con man, not a good man at all. But he was really quite famous, and he was like making, I don't know how many thousands and thousands. And you had another guy, something John James or something like that, who managed to get, I think it was like 600 people to do that mass suicide together.
Yeah.
That was to do with the occult as well.
Is that when they all drank the?
And they all done it, and he was in. Do you know what I mean? Like these, it is very, very powerful. And I tell you, the best documentary I've watched is really good. I've shared it a couple of times, and this is a guy. He's quite young. This guy. And he was completely into it. And at age 22, he'd manifested. He was writing all new age articles. He had his own website. He was earning a mint, right? He was earning an absolute mint from doing what he was doing. But he believed in it too. You know, he was in this massive mansion. He bought a Ferrari at 22 years old, loving life. Do you know what I mean? And then he had a proper, you know, shift. He was like, wow. He obviously came to Jesus. So what he does now, he got rid of all of his he got rid of it all. He got rid of his house, got rid of his car. He was like, I can't do, because he was just empty inside, even though he had all this stuff.
Materialistic
side, yeah. He was still like, so he now writes articles and tries to expose or help people out of the new age. And he's probably about 30. He's not, you know, early 30s, you know, he's not. And he did this, it's called
What's his name? What's his name again?
Oh, do you know what? I can't remember his name, but I will give you the it's like a 3-hour documentary, and what he does is he splits it all down and gives it to you not only scientifically but biblically as well, and tells you why that shows you in the Bible where it's not to be done. And he's really good, and he goes into yoga, the Christ consciousness, the meditation, all of it, and breaks it down. You can actually, underneath, it's a Rumble video, it is, I don't think you can get it on YouTube, but underneath, like, it tells you the timestamp for each thing. So if you wanted to just say, look at meditation, for example, he puts like, it's like 55 minutes or something, and it's on for like 15 minutes. Now, not only does he tell you that, he shows you the studies and everything that were done on meditation and it can cause psychosis, and it can get you in real deep depression and anxiety and things like, and he shows you scientifically what it's doing. He's brilliant. I can't remember his name, but he's absolutely superb. And he's got his own, you know, his own YouTube channel and whatever, like now. And like I say, he exposes it. So I'll send that to you as well. I'll send you those two so you can link this up.
Yeah, please.
Because I think that's probably one of the best. And if you're willing to open your eyes on it and watch it for what it actually is, you know. And like I say, I've had people come to me now and they're like, okay, I've seen your posts. I am into the new age, but I can see what you're saying, because it's actually quite a toxic place to be as well. In a lot of, not all the time and not all the people.
Yeah, of course. No, definitely.
Situations where, some of them, you know, like I say, good intentions, or, you know, many of them, but it can be quite toxic at times, and quite you know, the ego that can be found in it as well is really quite
that's
overwhelming. Like, you know, it's like, whoa.
That's various parts of my journey that ego's got a hold of me. So we're all
me as well.
We're all susceptible to it. We've all been there.
Absolutely. And ironically, it tells you, because I used to do this as well. Or part of this movement is you've got to lose the ego, while at the same time thinking you're a god. It's like it's quite backwards, you know. It's quite inverted is the right word.
It is. And so much of this world is inverted, and we are walking towards a dystopia. You just look at the like the TikToks and your social media, specifically TikTok and Instagram, where they've made everything people of their attention spans are gone. They can delete us talking about medical interventions, but they can't delete like the sexualized. A lot of it's just pedophilia. A lot of it is just pedophilia and young girls showing themselves, acting promiscuous and acting a certain way, and it's like they can't get rid of that because that's the main. To me, it's the
that's the agenda, isn't it? You know,
massively. You can see all the funny clips about dogs and the lighter-hearted thing, but as you're scrolling, you can
they'll
see
chuck it in every now, and that's what they do because they know kids are on there as well. It's heartbreaking, isn't it? You can see it just when you go out in society as well. Like I took Grace to the fair a couple of years ago. So I don't know, maybe she was about 12, something like that. And there was a massive group, a gang of girls, and they couldn't have been more than 11, these girls. And you should have seen what they had on and with their makeup. And I was like, it's not their fault. They're still children.
Yeah.
It's what society has put in front of them.
So
and that's what they
sexualized.
And you're like, why would they do that? What is the reason for it?
Exactly. Remember, obviously, again, God, I'm thinking I'm old now. I'm a stone throw away from 50. And
well, you don't look it.
Oh, thank you. My left knee feels it for sure. 40. I turned 47 last year. And I'm thinking, imagine if I just turned into an old, boring, old fogey, because you would see these young girls and these, wherever you want to call those shorts, where they're just tight, and I'm like, when I was that age, young girls just looked like young girls with ponytails and tracksuits and just like
I used to be one of them. Yeah.
Now it's just like just completely over sexualized, like with the makeup and the way they
everywhere look. As well. They can't get away from it, James. That's everywhere. The thing. Like these young kids, they're influent. We know how influential things can be, especially to children. So when we consider what we can see on social media and in the films and on the music videos and whatever, this is what these young girls are doing because this is what they know. You can see it, and it's really sad. But not only that, it's highly, highly dangerous because the more we go with this, because at the end of the day as well, we got to consider that, their parents are probably about our age, right?
Yes.
Or, maybe a bit younger or whatever. Yeah. But a lot of them allow that. So what's happened? There's been a desensitization process that's gone on in them too. And that's where the danger comes in, because that is when things like this are normalized. And when you bring in things like teaching children how to consent to things, do you know what I mean? We already know, right, how the justice system is failing massively for children. The pedophiles get off with a suspended sentence for 18 months and whatever. They might do a little bit of community service or whatever, and they've had like 500,000 images of children being raped. You're like, what?
And that's horrific, right? I must clarify, that is horrific. But they're just those ones, right, that we hear about. They're such low level. Well, you know yourself, because
there's loads of them.
You've went deep into this, right? But when you're getting up to the high echelons of like these corporations and elites, like that kind of pedophilia, that's untouched. Like we only ever
hear. What I mean is absolutely everywhere. But the point is they know. So even though we're all shocked and disgusted by it, it's still, the more we see it, the more it desensitizes. I mean, how can that possibly be that we've got a justice system that will do that, right? So people are outraged, but eventually they don't become there'll be a situation then where you've got, and you would have seen it, right? This is how they do it. This is how they normalize it. You would have seen it on like reels and stuff like that, because they purposely put stuff out for that reason. And you'll have it'll be like a 16-year-old girl, right, and like a 45 or 50-year-old man, and they'll be like, why we're in love, and it'll be like a little thingy to try and Because some people will, you'll see it in the comments. People will, there'll be a lot of them like, oh, that's disgusting. You'll be like, well, she is 16, it's legal. And that's the normalization.
It's just that little. That's just that little.
That's all you need.
It's just
that's
that
all you need
of no pushback. That little bit of thing, and then you take another.
And then when you come to prosecute as well, if you're letting children choose and you're letting children consent to what they want, right? If you got it from a groomer's point of view, that groomer's going to come in, groom that child. If it got to court or whatever, they'll get to a stage where that child is going to stand on that stand and say she loves the groomer. So if you've got a 10-year-old who's saying, yeah, I loved him, she consented. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? It's like, and they won't immediately do that, but that's where it's going. You know, when we look back and see how bad it's gone now, well, that's going to get worse.
Well, we touched on it earlier, the whole teaching kids gender ideology, teaching kids that they can give consent to want to take. I mean,
listen to you know what the UN again, United Nations, where Alice Bailey's stuff come from as well.
Yeah.
The UN, on the World Health Organization, in their matrix document, so that they document their framework then for what they want all of the education system to use. 0 to 4. So they got 0 to 4. 4 to 6, 6 to 9, 9 to 12, 12 to 15, 16 plus, right? And it tells you the information fed to the child and the attitudes and behaviors they want out of it. So in the 0 to 4 section, when it comes to sexuality, know what feels good, listen to your body, right? So, and obviously they're teaching them self-stimulation, which is masturbation, right? Know what feels good, listen to your body. Now we can look at that and think, what does that mean? Okay, so from a group, this is why it's so dangerous to people who don't know. They might be like, well, they've been told that know what feels good, listen to your body, they should know. So okay, then if you've got a 30-year-old man and a 4-year-old child, and that man comes in and says to that child, I'm going to tickle you by here under the neck, does that feel nice? The child is going to say yes. If you tickle him on the leg, does that feel nice? Yes. If you tickle them in the private area, it doesn't hurt, does it? So what they're teaching them, so that child then will consent because they've been taught to listen to your body and know what feels good. Because sexual abuse is very rarely violent. You do get it. They're opportunistic attacks usually, but it's a grooming process. So when you're teaching children, only raise the alarm if it hurts, you've just completely made it. So I know.
It's madness. It's madness.
It is. And these are pie policies, mind. Do you know what I mean? We've heard them say it, It's scary. Really
it is scary. It is scary. I'd hate it. Would I even want to bring a child into this world right now? I don't think I would. I don't know where are we going to be. Where are we going to be? If you look at the trajectory we've been on in the last 10 years, Kat, where is it going to go?
It's going to get worse.
And I think I've asked you previously, and when we've been talking about faith, religion, and good and bad, and like, what's the end game here? Will good triumph over evil? What do you believe? So. Do you think so?
But I believe Jesus is coming back. There's a second coming, see, and before that happened, just like Sodom and Gomorrah. So he said he was going to do it, and he did. Do you know what I mean? And he burnt those places down. And the flood, obviously you had the Nephilim, and the giants and whatever as well, right? Which is all biblical too. We know there's actually evidence for them, although they try and hide it. We know there's evidence for giants around the world, all over the world. I believe because I'm born again, that Jesus is coming back, second coming. But before then, if you read the book of Revelation, that's quite whoa, like especially now. Do you know what I mean? Like if you'd read it a while ago, you'd be like, wow. But now it's like, ooh, it's very, very, I believe it's very, very close. Everything in that Bible is prophet. Now I've actually sat down and read it instead of just cherry picking stuff, just what I'm looking for at that time.
Yeah.
It really is on point. Like, so when we're looking at Revelation, I believe he's coming back, but it is going to get worse before it, it's getting to that point now. And that's why you'll see many people of faith, many Christians saying it's got to be soon. None of us know when it is. And people would be, if you see somebody saying Jesus is coming back on the so-and-so, just don't believe them, because the only person who knows that is God, right? Nobody knows when that day is. And it says in the Bible, he'll come like a thief in the night. So none of us know when it's going to be, but we can see the signs before. Do you know what I mean? They said that there was going to be these sorts of signs and whatever else. And It is, and it's almost like now Satan's like, do you know what I mean? Like, which is a free for all for him now, because he knows the time is short. Like, do you know what I mean? So he's going to take as many people, and this is why we're seeing it. So in, like you said earlier, you know, it's been there always, but now there's been nothing quite like what we're seeing. It really, there's no subtlety with it anymore. You know, it is bang in your face.
We live in it. It just seems that we live in such an evil world. This earth, or whatever this physical reality is that we're
Satan's world.
Yeah, wouldn't that be the most wouldn't that be the ultimate inversion? Because if we were just in this world of flames burning in eternity and blah blah blah, we would know it, right? We would know this is hell. But once if you were in this Garden of Eden, what was perceived to be absolutely stunning, beautiful place.
Well, that's it. As soon as Eve at that's when we thought we fell into sin. So when you read the Old Testament, like before then, everything was beautiful. God walked in the garden with Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
All of those things, they could have anything they wanted. They just had one trick. But then Satan, obviously came in.
I feel like this is a fascinating way to a great way to end the conversation, where I'm going to, and pardon the pun, Kat, I'm going to be devil's advocate here.
Okay, yeah.
Right, because I think it's interesting, because, like, say, you've recently found your faith, where I think you stated earlier, you'd already, because of Flat Earth, believed in creation, in a creator, source, intelligent designer, whatever that means to anybody else. So being devil's advocate, and people, because we both know there's a lot of preconceived bias attached to religion, right? And I know fine well that I love hearing you talk about that, but a few people watching might just hear the words. Yeah. They might hear the words God and Satanism, and they might just switch off.
It's a trigger for people.
It really is, because that's why I'm happy to use the word God, because it doesn't for me. Again, I've not looked into religion deeply, but it doesn't have to mean man-made religion to me. Right? Like I say, I've not read any books. So what would you say to anybody when they say that, and we've had this conversation privately, but I'd love to explain to the audience, that what makes you truly believe in that? Because at the core of it, from anybody who's not religiously minded, they'd go, well, this is just like stories and books. And I have said this to you before. These are just books and scriptures written and rewritten by men to, some people say, to control men. So what would you say? How could you? Because you've not been around for all eternity from when these books were written. So to a certain extent, you have to have some faith in what those texts are saying. So what makes you truly, now you believe in everything that's in those scriptures and in the Bible?
For me personally,
sorry, I know that's a big.
No, it's not. It's a good question. And for me personally, because I think you get the people who have, sort of brought up with, in faith and whatever, and they've just got that faith. And then you get people who find it, because you get people in the, extreme, I've seen a lot of addicts and whatever be saved and things like that. So you'll have that sort of thing. For me, it's been a gradual thing, obviously, right? Yeah. So I started off with knowing, with all my research, knowing 100% Satan was real. Then I had my experience with the whole, and then obviously, basically what I've been doing is studying scripture and realizing that scripture is like, I can't even explain, and it does depend on what version is as well, because there's a lot of, this is prophesied in the Bible as well, there'll be a lot of falling away, apostasy, and there's a lot of words that are taken out of the Bible and stuff, of specific certain Bibles that can twist the word of God. So you've got to be you've got to pray for discernment to know you're reading the right thing. But it's like, how can I explain it? Because I read 3 or 4 books a week. Right, and I have for a long time. Honestly, I am a massive reader, right? So you can imagine when I was in the New Age, James was then, I am, this is amazing, and blah, blah, blah. I love
that about you.
I always have when I was a kid, I used to love reading, but I'd be reading like, sort of fictional books and science fiction and things like that and whatever else. But now I read.
Actually, I've got one here.
The power of now. That's Eckhart Tolle.
The power of now. Yeah, Eckhart Tolle.
I've read that. That's a massive New Age when I read both of them.
Don't know if can anyone see that?
Blue cover, and the next one is an orange cover. He's another big New Age guru. So I read a lot. So when I finally picked up the Bible, instead of like sort of cherry picking and saying, it's a book to control men, because I used to say the exact same thing, James. I used to say it. I picked that book up. And I can't explain. It's like it speaks to you. It's like a living book. Now, everything and I don't just read the Bible. I actually, because, I'm still learning too. I'm still finding my feet and everything with this. So I use a lot of people online to help me understand certain things and whatever. But all the way through this, right? And it's all of the things that were prophesied in the Old Testament. And it's like, I can't even think however many there is. They actually have come true.
Yes.
Like, so that is what makes me, because, when people say, I used to say it as well, it's written by man. So were all the other new self-help books written by man as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, so we got to, but this one is something else. So I read my books, and I obviously read the Bible every single day. I read a verse every single day, and there are certain verses I read for protection, right? Because I know it's a spiritual battle now. Do you know what I mean? I really know it's a spiritual battle, and we have to protect ourselves because we are getting attacked, whether we realize it or not. Certain things happen to us, and we when we're not in faith, we haven't got a clue. But when you're in faith, now I know when Jesus did that, when I had that sleep paralysis, there was nobody who was taking that away from me. It was my own experience. I'd suffered it for years before, and then all of a sudden, boom, Jesus is not afraid of demons are not afraid of anything but Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? So that's that sort of thing. But it comes alive. The book comes alive, when you're praying for discernment and you're looking at it, and like I say, all these prophecies fulfilled, it's statistically impossible for that to be so accurate. And it is accurate, but it's only when you read it. So I always say this to people, and I try and say it in the best way, and I try and say it in a meaningful way, because I know this can cause, and it does say, at the end you will be persecuted for my name, for anyone. And they were back then, his disciples they were all killed. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I kind of feel like I was prepared for it, because I'm used to being persecuted anyway. Do you know what I mean? For all the other stuff that I done. So it made no difference to me anyway. Jesus, I'll go out, doesn't matter. I'm quite
I would imagine you're pretty thick-skinned now, Kat.
I'm very thick-skinned. So, I was sort of, I'm not afraid to say it, know?
Yeah.
So, and it says this, and that's what I can see. I can see people being persecuted for his name. And it's quite, because, of all the time I've been a conspiracy theorist, I've been hated and mocked and alienated and, being called the town crazy, and everyone sort of, but I've never been attacked like I have because I found Jesus. And that even made it and I was like, whoa, and this is why people I would consider to be truth seekers. I kind of split the conspiracy.
Has it been direct attacks, or has it been like more passive
both
stuff?
Both. I've had people, do you know, I had a woman who, she followed me for years, absolutely really, respected my work and everything else. And as soon as I found not as soon as, but, when I was sort of getting into my faith and whatever, I could see it was annoying her anyway. And it does say that, demons will be irritated by, I had demons, didn't know. Do you know what I mean? People, they're going to make themselves obvious to you anyway. But the name Jesus will irritate demons, right? So she was niggling anyway. And then one day she just blew up, and she was like, telling me, it's a shame because all your work you've done with your children, has been amazing. And she blocked me, I've had that a couple of times as well. It really does irritate people.
It's funny how you can it's funny how you can share all these different kind of divisive topics all throughout your life, but then there's just this one.
Yeah, really. And it even made me sort of stronger in my faith, because I realized and do you know what? People would say in that to me, you do realize now you're going to get persecuted massively for speaking to, and I was like, I'm used to that anyway. But then when it was happening, I was like, it's not what I knew I was going to get, a little bit of jip, I suppose, but not like I have. Do you know what I mean? Like, and by the people I thought wouldn't, and and I thought these people were quite open to things, and I haven't been openly, if you've noticed, you would have noticed, because you've obviously been on my friends this a little while. I used to be quite, harsh and in your face, like blah blah blah, but I'm actually quite a lot softer now. I've changed. Even that it's changed me. It's convicted me every time I even stopped, if I swear now, I'm like, sorry, it's not because he's forcing me to do it. It's because every time I read that Bible, I feel convicted. Do you know what I mean? My attitude is changing to lots of things, and it's done me good.
I must admit, because and we have talked about this previously, I'm obviously open to all of it. I'm already halfway there. I look at life, I look at consciousness and soul in this world, and everything, our bodies and everything that we see around us, and everything that works in perfect conjunction with each other, and I see perfect intelligent. I see designed order, and I know there's some higher, whatever that is. I don't even know how to. I'm happy using the word God, so I'm already there. But I think there's been times I've wanted to look at the Bible, but I just think it's seems too big for me, overwhelming for me. Even just the way it reads, would I even understand it the way it's written? Maybe
That happened to me, mind.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, considering I'm such a thingy reader, I remember saying to Darren, "How do I read it?"
And of course, like say I can't. People have given me books when they've come in here. Like that's one of them, and I just find it. I don't know. I'm ashamed to say I'm not.
Do you know what I found helped me? I gotta be honest, right? Because, like I say, I read the New Testament first anyway.
Yeah.
But it was watching, right? So when I started, obviously Lou, my co-host, she was born again a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
So she was watching me in the New Age a little bit, But she wasn't forceful in any way. She was just dropping the odd thing in, and I was kind of coming around anyway. And when she could see that I was almost kind of there, she said to me, "Watch The Chosen." So I was like, all right, I'll give it a go. And I watched that. That really helped me understand the New Testament.
What is that?
It's it's a program based on when it's basically about Jesus's disciples, but it tells the Jesus story. And it's actually really good. It's like 4 series long. And it is one of those where you want to watch the next one. Do you know what I mean? You'll recognize some bits and pieces in it, but that really helped me. And then I read the New Testament, and I would say that, now is I sort of go between the Bible, and I actually really like watching people's podcasts, like me and you are having now, and you will have all sorts of people on there. You'll have pastors on there. You'll have ex-New Agers. You'll have people from even the LGBT movement and stuff on there as well. You'll have all, and it all kind of helps. And you can even, you can type, what it's like, you can type in anything in YouTube and,
literally,
or literally anything. And
literally.
so, if you wanted to look at certain parts of the book, what does this mean? What does the book of Job mean? What does the, and that helped me. I gotta be honest, I did, because as much as I'm a very, very avid reader, I totally understand what you're saying, and that kind of kept me away for a little bit as well. Do you know what I mean? It was only when I started.
I'd love to get back into reading books and want to turn the next, can't wait to turn the next page. I want to be in that, but I think I know for sure, like in modern society, that my attention span, TikTok, YouTube, modern social media,
do it through this,
has destroyed, but it's destroyed my attention span. So I'm really struggling with like something that long. Kind of like, I know we're doing like a 2-hour interview now, but like it's a struggle with long-sided things now. But it's definitely something I want to look at and have a better understanding of, because like I say, I feel like
I tell you a really good one actually, right? And I came across this. He's a Scottish guy, funnily enough, right? And he's had, what's it called? Oh, no. Sorry, do you know what? I thought, oh my God, he's got the same name as you. He hasn't. His is called, right, you're the Loft Project.
Yeah.
His is called the Fuel Project.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's a Scottish guy called Mark. I can't think of his surname. Now, I accidentally came across this a few months back, and I was like, whoa. And he's done loads of series, and they're all absolutely bang on. They're really good. The way he explains it, you'd like him. You would like him. He did what was called Know Your Enemy. Now, that really helped. Now, there was 78, sounds loads, but they're like 5 minutes, 10 minutes each. And he goes into Baal, he goes into the Tower of Babel. He goes from the beginning all the way through. He talks about like the Prophet Muhammad. He talks about Catholicism. He talks about everything, right? Semiramis and all the things, Baphomet, all of the things that we kind of know little bits about. He puts it all together. It's fantastic. And like I say, I watched it over, maybe over a week. I watched like quite a few, because some of them are like 3 minutes, some of them are 7 minutes. They're no longer than 11 minutes, but most of them sort of average out at about 6 or 7 minutes. And he goes into each brilliant. The Fuel Project. And like I say, that series he did like 12 years ago. So I sent him an email because I was like, he really helped me. Like, honestly, with so, like you're saying, your attention span and more. He really, really helped me. And I sent him an email and was like, I'm really glad that you did that series. Like, well done, because and he sent me one back and was like, thank you very. But he's done loads since as well. He's done one on wokeness, but he ties it up with it. But it's brilliant. He's really good. You would enjoy
the
it.
The Fuel Project.
The Fuel Project is called.
I'll definitely check it out.
He's really, really good. He's written books and all as well. But you can find all of his stuff on YouTube, so you may as well, like you say, you'd rather watch and listen and stuff like that. he is brilliant for that. But you take your pick. There's loads of people on
but
there.
Like, I'm still astounded. 3 books a week, right? That's
I know, and
that's
I'll read them together. So like, I've got that one.
Wow.
And what's the one online that I'm reading? The one I said earlier, The Hidden Truth of the Rainbow. That's the PDF I got online, and I'll read my Bible.
So you go between them. You actually go. Wow.
Yeah, so I'll read like a chapter. It depends how long the chapters are. It depends do you know what I mean? Like, and if I'll just every night I will read. And if I get time, I don't really get a lot of time anymore in the days and things like that. Not unless I'm, away. If I'm going away for a couple of days, me and Darren and Grace or whatever, I'll read. But so I don't have much time in the day because I'm quite busy. But in the night, I always make time. I can't not have a book. I can't. Like Darren's like, okay, we'll get one. Do you know what I mean? And what happens is I'll be reading one book, and they'll tell me about another book, or I'll be watching something, and I'll be like, pause. eBay, how much is that? World of Books, tenner, I'm having it. So all these books keep turning up. I'm like, I haven't got a big enough house.
I need to get back into book reading. That's what
I love it. It's one of my, I really enjoy it, and it helps me. It really do. Like with it, like you say, social media and things like that can ruin us a little bit, can't it? I think I found my balance there. I do make time for it.
I've certainly, I'm open about it. I have a phone addiction. It's like, I wish I didn't. I'd love to have a technology detox week, just a week in the woods with no Wi-Fi, no phone, no social media, just because you get it's all by design again. I should know better, but doom scrolling at stupid o'clock, and I'm thinking, this blue screen, I'm like, why can't I sleep? Why is my attention span? But then you've got that ego side of it where I'm using their platforms against them to tell the truth. You know what I'm saying?
I know. It's like non-winning. But I totally agree with you, though. You do need to have to. That's what I mean. I can get stuck on their mind. Sometimes you'll know when I am because you'll see. I'll post a Doberman video, like Doberman puppies.
No, but listen, I love that as well. Like, by the way, Dobermans, all puppies in general, but Doberman puppies. Oh my god,
they're the best.
Oh my god.
I'll be sat there and Darren and Grace will be like, I'm like, oh look.
I saw it. I was like,
I want another one.
I was. Do you know what? When I first saw it, I thought, is she gonna get another one? Are they gonna get another one?
Love another one. But I live with my mum, don't I? So it's up to my mum. And Junior's, he's brilliant. He's such a good boy. I want to get a dog for my dog. I do, right? Because he would love a dog.
I love watching those videos when people get that because they're happy. Obviously, they live their best life with you anyway. But that when you see them have that their own little friend, it's a beautiful thing to watch. To be fair.
It is beautiful, and my last Dobie, Bingo, he wasn't. It's not that he was nasty to any of the dog. He just couldn't care less. He wasn't interested. He just say like, but Junior loves other dogs. Honestly, all he wants to do is play, and he's quite submissive for a Dobie. He's a male Doberman with his testicles, but he's not very dominant either. So he's good as gold. Maybe we'll convince my mum.
Definitely.
I have sent her videos, but I sent her a video the other day, right, with an adult Dobie and a puppy Dobie playing. Yeah. That's what she just put a heart on it. I'm like, oh, come on, man, this is me trying to ask if we can have one.
That's what I thought when I saw the video anyway.
Yeah.
Well, Kat, like I said, thank you so much. That was a fascinating conversation. I'm really interested in the whole topic. And I love the fact that you're coming from a point of view that you were in that you know about it. You're not just attacking them. I'm
not attacking anyone. I totally understand.
And you know. I feel like that's the same with flat earthers and globe proponents. I'm not going to call them that. Globe proponents, because I believe in that. I literally said, "Where's the edge?" to somebody one time.
Yeah. If it will push all the cats would push everything off.
I repeated all that stuff. When I first heard of flat Earth. So it's funny. You can see the journey that you've been on, and that we can all change our mind about things. We can all change our mind about things
based on new information. That's what we should be doing.
You should always want but. Like you've touched on, a lot of people just stop at a certain place and they don't move on from it, So you should always, if there's something that completely disproves what you were originally saying, then you should be able to take it on and move forward from it and learn. And that's how knowledge comes anyway. But
definitely,
great conversation, Kat. As always, I thoroughly enjoy our conversations. So we'll leave it there, guys. If you enjoyed it, listen. as I always say, if you enjoyed the content, press the subscribe button. I'm still a small channel. I'm always out there hoping for more subs, more support for the channel, and we'll bring you more episodes. So for me and Kat, I'm going to say we'll see you next time. Bye.
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 Bye.